The rivalry between Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley, two NBA legends, was intense, fiery, and at times, downright shocking. From bickering on the court to slinging insults off it, their beef has been one of the most talked about in basketball history. So, what sparked this epic feud? And why did these two icons, once colleagues on the court, end up hurling jabs at each other for years? Well, buckle up, because we're diving deep into the story of Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley's unforgettable beef. And trust me, you'll want to stick around for every second of it. The story begins in the late 80s when Pippen and Barkley first crossed paths on the court. It wasn't a matchup anyone saw coming yet, it was inevitable. Pippen, the quiet, smooth operator of the Chicago Bulls, was focused on team play, defense, and helping his superstar teammate Michael Jordan dominate. Barkley? Well, he was all about being the show on his own. His brash, me-first mentality clashed with Pippen's unselfish approach. On the court, their styles couldn't have been more different. Imagine trying to pair a swan with a bull in a china shop, you get the picture. Flash forward to 1993. The Chicago Bulls are in the NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns, and the tension is already building. Barkley's Suns are giving Michael Jordan's Bulls a run for their money. Then, in Game 5, the basketball world witnessed the shot Jordan's iconic game winner over Craig Elo. But here's where the beef heats up. Pippen, frustrated by Barkley's lack of support for MJ during the game, couldn't contain his emotions. It's like Barkley was more focused on stealing the spotlight than getting his team to the next level. The tension between the two was tangible. Trust me, you could cut it with a knife. Now, here's where things start to get really juicy. After the Bulls won that finals series, Barkley didn't exactly extend a warm handshake. Instead, he had some choice words for Pippen. Barkley accused Pippen of only being a sidekick to MJ, like some kind of Robin to Batman, just waiting in the shadows to be acknowledged. Pippen, not one to back down, fired right back, dismissing Barkley's one-dimensional style of play. Imagine a world where your friend is always throwing shade on your side hustle. Awkward, right? Their beef wasn't just about basketball stats, it was rooted in their personalities. Pippen's all about defense. The man was a wall on the court, stopping anyone in their tracks. Meanwhile, Barkley, he's a high-scoring machine, self-proclaimed as the league's most dynamic offensive force. His whole philosophy, give me the ball, let me do my thing. This clash of ideals turned their rivalry from casual jabs to full-blown animosity. In other words, if Pippen's defense was a locked door, Barkley was the guy trying to bulldoze it with his ego. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. It wasn't just what happened on the hardwood, it was what went down in the media. Barkley, never one to shy away from an interview, started throwing some serious shade at Pippen's game. He would call Pippen overrated, implying that he was nothing without MJ. Pippen, in turn, didn't keep quiet either. He would lob insults right back, questioning Barkley's ability to win when it mattered most. It's like they were in a constant battle to prove who was the better player and who had the bigger ego. Keep in mind, we're not just talking about basketball anymore. We're talking about pride, legacy, and yes, big-time egos. The Dream Team, a once-in-a-lifetime collection of basketball legends, including Pippen and Barkley, was supposed to bring the best of the best together. But not exactly. Both players had moments of tension during practices, especially when it came to roles within the team. Pippen, the team player, wasn't about to let Barkley's individualistic style slip by without a comment. Meanwhile, Barkley couldn't understand why Pippen was getting so much attention when he believed his own talent was on a higher level. At one point, they even nearly came to blows over how the team should be run. You can imagine the locker room vibes were as chill as a sauna. Fast forward to 2000 when Barkley announced his retirement. You'd think this would be the perfect time for some peace, right? Nope. In his farewell speech, Barkley threw in one last jab at Pippen. He praised MJ, of course, but when it came to Pippen, Barkley couldn't resist. Pippen was lucky to play alongside the best player of all time. Ouch. And to be honest, Pippen was probably sitting there watching with a mix of annoyance and, here we go again. To be fair though, Barkley didn't exactly know how to not stir the pot. It's like he lived for it. Let's be real, the media has always loved a good feud. And when it comes to two larger-than-life characters like Pippen and Barkley, the media just couldn't resist. Every time one of them made a statement, the press was right there, waiting to push that rivalry to the next level. It's like they knew exactly what would sell chaos. Every headline screamed, Pippen versus Barkley, or rivalry intensifies. They fed the drama like an unstoppable machine, and before long, even fans couldn't remember who actually started it. But we do know one thing. It wasn't pretty. Years later, both players began to calm down and, in some instances, seemed to apologize for the beef. Pippen mentioned that he had matured, and Barkley suggested that maybe it was all a misunderstanding. But let's be honest, do we really believe that? These two were never going to be best buds, but time did mellow the animosity. Sometimes rivalries are like bad relationships, you throw some dirt, but eventually you learn to let it go. Although, with these two, I wouldn't count on them ever sending each other Christmas cards. As the years passed, something curious happened: respect. While their on-court rivalry remained etched in history, both men started acknowledging each other's greatness. It's like those old friends who used to fight but realized the battle wasn't worth it. Pippen admitted that, despite their differences, Barkley's game was undeniable, and Barkley, with his usual flair, gave Pippen his flowers, calling him one of the greatest defenders to ever play the game. So, while they'll never be best friends, there's mutual respect now, kind of like an awkward handshake from across the room. The Pippen-Barkley rivalry, much like a classic basketball game, has a lasting impact on the history of the NBA. Their beef isn't just about personal grudges. It's about two philosophies of basketball clashing in front of millions. For fans, it was entertaining. For players, it was a reminder that, in the NBA, sometimes egos are just as big as the game itself. Their rivalry might have been messy, but it helped define a moment in basketball history that's still talked about today. At the end of the day, the Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley rivalry proves one thing: even the greatest players don't always get along. Whether it was Pippen's defense or Barkley's offense, the tension between them captured the essence of what it means to be a competitor in the NBA. Their beef may have cooled, but it still leaves a lasting mark. Who knows? Maybe, deep down, they'll even tell their grandkids about it someday, but not too fondly. So, when we look back on Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley, it's not just about the games they played, it's about how their rivalry shaped the narrative of the NBA for years to come. Both players are legends in their own right, and despite the beef, their legacies will forever be tied together. If anything, their rivalry taught us a valuable lesson. Not everyone in the NBA has to be friends to be great. Sometimes they just have to beat each other on the court, and that's all the fuel they need. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most legendary rivalries in NBA history, make sure to hit that like button, share this with your fellow basketball fans, and leave a comment telling us what you think of the Pippen vs. Barkley saga. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more basketball drama you won't want to miss.